It looks like I am no longer the only Cash Kelly in Philadelphia, because Chip Kelly today, after deciding last week that he was going to stay at Oregon, Chris Mortenson reported this afternoon that, according to numerous sources, Chip Kelly had decided to change his mind and accept the job as Philadelphia Eagles head coach. You guys know I'm a huge Eagles fan, and this past week I've just been waiting for a new coach. I think everyone felt like yesterday Gus Bradley, the Seahawks defensive coordinator, was going to be the guy. He turned out not to be, and he's interviewing in Jacksonville now. But I don't think anyone saw this coming, because Justin on the show, he texted me around the time that Chris Mortenson tweeted this, because I was at school, obviously, and he told me that Chip Kelly is the head coach of the Eagles now, no joke, and I didn't even believe him. So I go to Twitter, and I'm looking on Twitter on my phone in the middle of my economics class, and I'm looking on Twitter, and I'm trying to find this report. So I scroll down enough that I see Mort Report tweet this, and I'm like, I think that's Chris Mortenson's legit Twitter. I click on it to make sure there's nothing, like, this isn't some fake thing like people have done with like guys like John Heyman in the past, and it wasn't fake, it was real. And then it was just a matter of a few other people confirming it, which did happen. Once SportsCenter tweeted it, Ruben Frank of Comcast Sportsnet tweeted it, and you felt like it was definitely true. As for Chip Kelly coming here, there's mixed reaction for, I think that there are some legitimate concerns about Chip Kelly coming here. Now, I saw the video clip of Heath Evans of the NFL Network saying that this was the worst hire in NFL history. That is just, why? How can you tell that when a guy hasn't even been on the job for a day? Even if you don't think his style is going to work out in the NFL, is it really the worst hire in NFL history? I think that's just, it's kind of, it's something that these networks all do, where they get someone to say some ridiculous statement like that. Like, if you disagree with something and you think that it was a bad hire, that's one thing. But to come out so far against this hiring, even if Chip Kelly has 2 seasons of going 6-10 or 7-9, and then for whatever reason is let go, it's still not the worst hire in NFL history. That to me was a little stupid. But Chip Kelly, obviously the money certainly had something to do with it, and I think in the end Chip Kelly wanted to come to the NFL, and I felt like it was a lot that he was going to come to the NFL. I was shocked when he said last week that he was going to go back to Oregon, and obviously I just put it away. I felt like, okay, he's back at Oregon, he's not a candidate for any of these NFL jobs anymore, and then all of a sudden it crept back up today once Gus Bradley left Philly without a contract that Chip Kelly was going to be the head coach of the Eagles. As far as his offense, which is what Heath Evans critiqued, I don't know if it's going to work, because I know that certain NFL teams, like the New England Patriots, you saw them use some of it last week against the Houston Texans, and they were very successful. Teams in the past have used parts of his offense, or they have certain sets where they'll use his offense for a few plays in a row, but no one has used it exclusively. And I'm not sure that Chip Kelly plans to use the same offense that he used at Oregon exclusively in the NFL, because people have concerns about, will NFL players give 100% on every play like they were at Oregon? There's less people on rosters. Will you be able to sustain that type of energy level over a longer season and then into the playoffs, assuming that the Eagles would make it that far, which certainly isn't any guarantee after the last 2 seasons. So there's concerns about Chip Kelly. As an Eagles fan, I'm not going to sit here and blast this move until I see it fail. And that's not 1 season of going 6-10. That's a few seasons of really struggling. I'm not going to blast hiring Chip Kelly. Was he the first choice for me? No, he was not. I liked Gus Bradley. I liked the idea of going with a defensive, smash-mouth football team like what Gus Bradley, I think, would have brought in here. And I think with 2 running backs, it might have worked. That isn't what's going to happen, though. And bringing in Chip Kelly, it's something that it's intriguing, because everyone wants to see if his offense will be able to transfer over to the NFL game. I think the thing that I would say is I'm intrigued to see it, but I wasn't exactly hoping that it would happen with my team. That being said, again, I'm not going to blast it. When I see that this offense truly does not work, however long that takes, then maybe I'll be disappointed and say that it's time to go in a different direction. But if we've seen some of these fast-tempo, no-huddle teams. I know it's not the same thing, but when the Denver Broncos sped it up against the Ravens last week, midway through the fourth quarter, they had extreme success. When the Atlanta Falcons have run a no-huddle this year, it's been virtually unstoppable. And when the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick is certainly someone that it's hard to earn his trust. When you've seen them use parts of this offense, they've had a ton of success because teams are not prepared to play at this speed. You can't make adjustments at the speed that this offense takes. That being said, you also offensively have to be having success to continue to run these plays into the ground, because if you're not having success, then you need to stop, you need to go back to a huddle. Chip Kelly certainly is going to have to get more familiar with huddling, especially late in games and big situations. What people are not going to want to see is a minute left in the game and, I guess this is a bad example, but a minute left in the game, you got the ball on the 7-yard line after a huge play, 30-yard pass, and you're going no huddle rather than taking a timeout, huddling, and setting things up. People do not want to see no huddle every single play. And look, I'm not the most familiar with Chip Kelly's offense. I've seen it enough, but I can't say that I've watched every Oregon game to critique it to the fullest point. What I'm saying is, we'll wait and see. The other candidates, besides Gus Bradley, I wasn't really thrilled with any of them. John Gruden is extremely overrated. Bill Cowher hasn't coached in the NFL in 5 years. Jay Gruden didn't thrill me. Mike McCoy, I liked Mike McCoy, so if he had come here, that would have been pretty cool, but he went to San Diego. Gus Bradley, I really liked Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley was the guy I want. I would take Gus Bradley over Chip Kelly still, but again, it's not going to happen, so it's time to move on from that. As for who will play the quarterback position, apparently, I think everyone assumed once Chip Kelly came in here that Michael Vick's going to return. Now, that would take Michael Vick restructuring his contract, which is something that we've heard he will not do. But we've also heard that Michael Vick, if he was released, wanted to sit back and wait and potentially sign with any team that Chip Kelly came into the NFL as a head coach with. So maybe now that Chip Kelly's here and a system that would be friendly to Michael Vick, maybe Michael Vick would be willing to sit back and say, look, this is my best opportunity to be a starter and succeed. I'm going to restructure my deal, and I'm going to try and make it work one last time in Philly. And if you look around this offense, a few years ago, bringing in Chip Kelly would have been scary. The first year that Michael Vick was here, the first year I did this show, the first year that Michael Vick was a starter, I guess I should say, the first year I did this show with Donovan McNabb. But when Michael Vick was still here, or when Michael Vick was really good, then you had LaShawn McCoy as a bright, young, upcoming running back. You had Deshaun Jackson with all that speed. You had Jeremy Maclin. This offense was electric. It was dynamic. It was fun to watch. And it has not been that really since that season. Michael Vick's become more prone to interceptions and fumbling. Deshaun Jackson has been non-existent in my mind the last 2 seasons. Jeremy Maclin, with that, hasn't excelled to the level that anyone anticipated. And LaShawn McCoy is probably a top 5 running back. I think nationally people overrated him a little bit, but I think he is one of the best running backs in the NFL. So if you can get Deshaun Jackson back to how he was a few years ago, you look at what Jeremy Maclin can bring to the table when Deshaun Jackson's having success. You have a tight end in Brent Selleck, who's probably a top 10 tight end when he's playing well. Certainly wasn't last season. But if you can get a second tight end, I think the thing that Chip Kelly's going to bring is he's not going to bring in a lot of big-name guys, but he's going to bring in guys that fit his system. And when you look around the NFL, the teams that do that are the ones that have success. Wes Welker wasn't a huge name when the Patriots acquired him from the Miami Dolphins. But what Wes Welker has done there he's they got him the same offseason that they got Dante Stallworth and Randy Moss. Since then, Dante Stallworth he's back with the Patriots for like 2 games this year, but he's been out of the NFL. Randy Moss has been gone, and Wes Welker quietly has been one of the best wide receivers in the NFL since that point in 2007. So my point is that Chip Kelly will bring in guys that fit his system, even if they're not big names, even if they're not a 6'5" wide receiver. I think he will make things work offensively. It's a matter of will it be sustainable over a 16, 17, and beyond if they make the playoff week course. And then there's the problem of the defense. That was an absolute mess. You're probably going to be talking about having 2 brand new corners next year because Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie's a free agent, likely won't return. And then you also have Nnamdi Asomugha, who's been just unwatchable over the course of these first 2 years. He likely won't be returning. So you have a young defense that has a lot of holes, especially in the secondary. You basically need to redo the entire secondary. And what you have with this team, you have a veteran defensive end in Trent Cole's getting up there. I think he's about 30 years old. You have Fletcher Cox. You have Michael Kendricks, D'Amico Ryans had a very good first year. So you do have some pieces to work with. But for the most part, defensively, you're going to be talking about an overhaul, which is one of the reasons that I was intrigued by Gus Bradley's name. Chip Kelly is going to have to go out and find someone that is going to revamp this defense and put this team in a position that all the pressure is not on Michael Vick. And if they go with Nick Foles, which I would not be surprised with because according to a few reports, Chip Kelly has said he is in awe of Nick Foles, when he's watched Nick Foles. Now, look, let's be honest, it must not have been anything that he showed in these NFL games that he'd be in awe of, but I think he's more talking about what he thinks Nick Foles can potentially do. My guess on who plays quarterback, and I don't know who's going to be the defensive coordinator. We're going to have to wait and see who Chip Kelly brings in, whether it's someone he knew from his college experience or whether he finds a veteran NFL guy. We'll see. But I think as far as quarterback position, I think my guess is that he's going to go with Nick Foles. Hearing that he's in awe of him, the organization wants to go in a different direction. I am a big Mike Vick fan, but I think it is time to go in a different direction at the quarterback position. I'm not the highest guy on Nick Foles. I really don't know what he brings to the table. Even after watching him for 4 or 5 games, he was not consistent over that course. He showed some very good things, and then he showed some bad tendencies, so we'll see if he is anything into the future. But I think moving on from the Andy Reid era, it's time to just move on from some of these guys. Michael Vick, I think Deshaun Jackson, except they're not going to do that because he fits his system too well. You need to get rid of some of these guys who felt like they were stars. Well, you're not really a star when your team is not producing at the level that they need to, and when your talk is bigger than what you're actually bringing to the field, when your pay is not aligned with how you're playing. And that's another reason I wanted to go with the defensive guy, because with defensive guy, you can overhaul this whole offense. And really the only 2 people I need to see back next year are LaShawn McCoy and Bryce Brown. We'll see what happens with Chip Kelly. A lot of people have said that this is kind of a sexy hire over what would have been a smart hire, and I couldn't agree more. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't work, but I think that kind of is what this is. They wanted a big name. We heard all the way back in Week 14 or Week 15 that the Eagles were interested in Chip Kelly's services, and they got their guy. We'll see if it works out, because if it doesn't, you're going to have an Eagles fan base, whether the national media likes it or not, that is not happy and has every right not to be happy, because they have not won a Super Bowl, and we have not been successful here to any large degree. I mean, they made the playoffs in Michael Vick's best year, but other than that, what have they done since going to the NFC title game in 2008, and prior to that, 2004 Super Bowl? They really have not been very successful. So something's got to give. Chip Kelly, I'd say give him 3 years, and if he has not put this team in a position where you feel like this is a contending team, then that's the point where you maybe go in a different direction. I'm hoping that I don't have to do what I've done the last few years and completely criticize the head coach, point out to everyone who is oblivious apparently outside of this city that the head coach isn't doing a good enough job, and I hope that he turns his team around and everything goes fine. That's my hope. Whether it actually happens or not, I don't know. As far as college coaches going to the NFL. I know a lot of people aren't happy about this because they just don't think it works. But Pete Carroll's worked, Jim Harbaugh has worked, and I'm not sure Pete Carroll's style holds up in the NFL, but we'll see. Certainly worked very well so far. Jim Harbaugh is one of the top 5 coaches in the NFL already, and he looks like a genius after going to Colin Kaepernick. I mean, there's obviously been guys like Steve Spurrier, like even Nick Saban, who haven't had great success in the NFL after being very good coaches in college. You don't know what's going to happen, but we've seen Doug Marrone go to the Bills from Syracuse this offseason, and there's certainly a long list of other names in college that could potentially be coaches into the future. The coach at Stanford now, I forget his name, but he's done a very good job since taking over for Harbaugh. He's a name that could be out there. There's a lot of guys, Brian Kelly, Nick Saban, that if they wanted to come to the NFL could have jobs in a matter of minutes. I think it depends individually on each coach. You can't lump them together and say, oh, this guy's a college coach. If I had to guess on Chip Kelly's style, I don't know if it will or will not work, so I guess I shouldn't even guess at all. We'll see what happens. I'm an Eagles fan, and I'm just happy to be going in a different direction after my entire life has been spent with one coach who did a good job for a long time, but as of the past 3 or 4 seasons, it has not been good enough. Eagles hired Chip Kelly. What do you guys think? Let me know. I'll see you guys later.